Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Swami Iti Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Swami Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pacharine Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Bhaskacharya Tarine Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pacharine Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Actually, really, they are very unlimited stories. Unlimited stories. Just go on forever. Just talk about the things he did. And some of the stories were very wonderful, and some were very serious. And they were all wonderful, but they were, sometimes it was serious and they were. So I don't know what it's called to start on these stories. That's a mood that it develops when you start thinking about Srila Prabhupada, at least for me. My realization come from the time we were serving Prabhupada. I guess Guru Kripa would say, you know what, I couldn't just sit around Prabhupada all the time. Because I would, you know, I was too offensive. I had to go out in the streets and do something, serve Prabhupada, because if you sit around trying to absorb Krishna, Prabhupada, through your eyes, you're simply wasting your time. If you want to get in with Krishna, you have to serve Prabhupada. That was the mood that I developed. Just to do something, just to serve Prabhupada, because Prabhupada knew everything. It's very wonderful to see somebody who knew everything. And if he didn't know it, Krishna would tell him. I'll tell you the story of what Prabhupada was giving class once. So he made the point about how rare it was to see a pure devotee in this lifetime. He said, you take the vast ocean. You see, in the ocean, there's a piece of wood floating in the ocean. You could even see it because it's so small. But in that a piece of wood, maybe a hole, there's a hole in that wood. And at the bottom of the ocean, there's a turtle floating up from the vast ocean, and he just happened to float right through his head and right into that hole of that wood. And that is very rare. That's how rare it is to come in contact with a pure devotional, pure devotee like Prabhupada in this lifetime. So it's very rare to come in contact with you. Rare. And the stories are unlimited. We took every opportunity to do something to please Prabhupada. So one time Prabhupada came out of the back of the temple. He said, I have digestion problems. Go get me a 7-Up. Go get it. We're flying. Got the 7-Up, came back. Probably got one. We had the other 24 cans. Back in those days, drinking out of 7-Up was sense gratification to the max. We're always trying to do something to please Prabhupada. It's the simple things. Everyone's giving things Prabhupada all the time. So a flower, a bouquet, a gift, or whatever. Sometimes the arm becomes full of stuff, and I would just shoot down right in front of Prabhupada, throw my doing like that. Prabhupada just drop everything in my, and they'd look at me with like, thank you, son. So that look was like $1 million to me. to see the smile, and look at me, pleasing like that. So we always looking for some type of, I got a patent on that activity. Every time probably watching people putting in 2 or 3, his arm became full, I took a. So that was my service. I made it my service to be there. So there were some of the things that we did. Everyone had their own personal things we're trying to do to please Prabhupada. Our thing was to distribute books and do kirtan. The service of the pure devotee was so unique that his job was to smash everybody's false ego. If you think you had a false ego, you had to come in contact with Srila Prabhupada. But nobody can smash somebody's false ego like Srila Prabhupada. And nobody escaped. If you're a disciple of Prabhupada, you did not escape getting smashed by Prabhupada. And the stories are limited. Sometimes they were really humorous, and sometimes they were unfortunate. And I remember one devotee, he started a group, a club, and he called it Gopi Baba Club. And he kept talking to everybody. Prabhu, come on, come to our club. I said, yeah, but I just came back to the Santa. Tomorrow. It kept tomorrow, yeah. So Prabhupada heard of that, so he came and he called all the GBCs in the movement. It was flying everywhere. Converting, Prabhupada says. They're trying to take over my movement. Wow, that was a heavy thing. Trying to take over Prabhupada's movement. Because Prabhupada took Sahajya stuff very seriously. Sahajya or Mayavadi stuff probably is go to the truth, go to the roof of that nonsense. So that came through Los Angeles. When that happened, Prabhupada became incensed. He was throwing people out of the movement left and right. If you say the right thing, get out. You said something, what do you think about this? Well, I'm sorry, sir. Oh, okay, he's okay this side. But wow, now this is a god. This came from Prabhupada, right? I mean, so, sometimes this devotee would be defiant. He thought he knew something and he was challenging Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, get out. When he said get out, he means not a couple of days, right down, right? I mean, we watched devotees walking down that room with suitcases packed up within an hour, they were gone. Because Prabhupada could see a rascal, a demon, just like that. And that devotee, there was a few devotees, but there's one particular devotee, he was spearheading the whole thing. And he was, to this day, we're talking about 30 years and so on, he still is blaspheming ISKCON, all the devotees in ISKCON. Very heavy things about the devotees, making people think like, this movement is really bad. So this guy we know he was taking a serious Hell Express for that offense. But lot of things happened those days. But in between that, Prabhupada, his job was purifying everybody. And every time you got out of line, Prabhupada would smash you. I watched Prabhupada smashing people left and right. That I kept trying to escape getting the smashing, but it was inevitable. One time I thought, well, Prabhupada was, okay, I'm going to chant for Prabhupada today. I'm doing the good food. So, okay, so I do the good food. So I started chanting. Now Prabhupada chant, when we chanted, everybody participated in Prabhupada's chant. Everybody had, Prabhupada would either bring a dong, or he would have cartels or whatever he had. But he would participate in the kirtan. Now out of the 1 million times I watched him doing that, it was my time. So when I started chanting, I don't know what it was, either I was so puffed up that I thought I was doing how to play my dance so nicely and sing so nicely. So I started doing it, and Prabhupada started chanting these cartels, ching, 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 and I said, Shri Guru, ching, and Prabhupada stopped for a second, listen. He took his cartels off and put it down the side. And he turned around and started patting out cookies to the devotees, to the kids and everybody. It was about I was about 5 feet from Prabhupada. So when the whole mass of devotees started converged on Prabhupada to get cookies, it's like push me out of the way. And I'm supposed to be singing.
Well, that's the women and the children, or all?
I'm saying, huh?
The women and the children, or all the?
Well, children, everybody, when the Prabhupada hands something out in his hand, everybody wants that mercy. I mean, you know, sometimes kids were too late, you know, everybody wants to mercy. So anyway, I remember how when did that, I just tried to see it was like a tunnel. It's like I just went into a tunnel over here by myself. Everybody was watching the Prabhupada and the kirtan, and over by Shri Guru Charana Padma, hey, Bando Muino. Nobody was practically, no one participating. I'm thinking, probably, I went from to like a little side of a needle. I was nowhere. He smashed it down to a fact that you didn't exist no more. But when you got the point that how big Christian would always smash you down. And I used to go to smash every day, morning class. The devotees who were very intelligent, they try to say something to Prabhupada using some Sanskrit that you know, like, Sarvada Parada Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, what is Dharma? What does that mean? I don't know, Srila Prabhupada. So you're using words that you don't know. Immediately smash down to the. He's always cutting you down because we're always so puffed up. That was Prabhupada's job, to bring you down from whatever you were at, down to the real ego. Because we absorb and false ego like anything. But, I mean, one morning walk, Prabhupada said, we should make this program, blah, 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 about this. And one devotee said, well, Srila Prabhupada, I have difficult preaching there. I can't preach there because, you know, I can't deal with all the different Indians. The Indians, you know, they'll cheat me. They're all real very tricky. Prabhupada says, I'm also Indian. I not you, Srila Prabhupada. I'm not talking about that. Prabhupada said, yes. I'm also in India. He said, yeah, and I'm also tricky. He said, I'll trick you to become devotees. He said, now you can't get away. He said, yeah, I trick you. He said, I trick you through your tongue. Prashadam. So, and they are very tricky. So, every time you try to do something, Prabhupada would check you. Just check you. He was expert at just checking. One time, one devotee, he came to the Srila Prabhupada. I won't call no names, but just when the devotee said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I'm having some difficulty in my spiritual life. I'm feeling, Prabhupada said, he interrupted, he said, can you go to the store and buy me some eggplant? Oh yes, Srila Prabhupada. So he gave some money, he took off. So he came back. And he was thinking about whatever his problem was, his Maya, whatever it was. So he said, off the basis, so Srila Prabhupada, as I was saying before, Prabhupada said, did you get the eggplant? And he didn't hear that. I was having some very difficult in my chanting, and Prabhupada said, did you get the eggplant? And the boy said, and sometime I fall on my, and Prabhupada said, scream, did you get the eggplant? Oh, he said, oh, yes, Srila Prabhupada, I got the eggplant. He said, yeah, give me the money, change. Okay, now you can get out. So he got up and walked away. So he was stunned. So he came right down to me because I was for panic commandment at the time. So he came. I said, what happened? He said, you look like you hit by a brick or something. He said, I don't know what happened just then. I was just talking probably about Maya, and he didn't even hear me. He said, then I realized now at that point, the purpose of your life is just to serve a pure devotee. You're trying to, you're looking for some other else thing, but it's actually just to serve the spiritual master and do it with your heart and soul. So he had that realization. I won't say his name, but he had the realization that you have to be absorbed in serving the spiritual master. Don't try to figure out the spiritual master. Don't argue. Just be his servant. And then at morning class, and the morning walk, he probably giving a class about pleasing the spiritual master, how to serve the spiritual master. You see, factually, you should become a dog of the spiritual master. Wonder what he said. Oh, Srila Prabhupada, I'm your dog. I'm your dog, Srila Prabhupada. I'm your dog, probably the disdain look on his face. You turn around and say, it takes many, many years to become the dog of the spiritual master. That's not an easy thing to serve. You will serve the spiritual master. You have to realize you have to work at that until you become humble and to please the spiritual master. Not just serve, but to try to please. I mean, our job was to make sure that he was satisfied. And so we day and day, we hit the streets and do book distribution, Harinam or whatever. We stayed out trying to please Prabhupada. And that comes. Prabhupada never fails to, if you're sincere, you'll be pleased. You get pleased by Krishna. So, I'm going to talk over somebody's Yadavar is here. You're right here. So, huh? No, I can't stop talking. Huh? Everybody has unlimited stories about Prabhupada. If you had some association, you can just talk for hours. So it's not like a Prabhupada to talk about Prabhupada. We had the mercy in Los Angeles where Prabhupada was staying for 3 months. Classes and darshans. Right? One time we was out, back in the day when Spiritual Sky.
Get the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Back in the day when we were talking, it was a Spiritual Sky warehouse. I used to work there. The true part was books, forklift and did. And one time, Prabhupada came to the spiritual sky to walk around, to see things. And I remember there's one devotee said, I'm gonna call any names. The devotee got all the damaged books have been torn and broken. He wouldn't put a pile way at the end of the warehouse around the corner in a pile. So Prabhupada came to the Spiritual Sky. He was walking around looking at everything, and they would say, oh yes, Prabhupada, those are all the Sri Mountains and the BTD. So we're walking, Prabhupada says, and he was pointing, showing Prabhupada, and Prabhupada just kept walking. And he said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, the book. He said, Srila Prabhupada kept walking. So Prabhupada walked all the way to the end, went around the corner, and saw those books. Prabhupada says, what is that? Oh, that big lump is on. There was no excuse. Nobody could escape Prabhupada. He knew everything. If you try to escape, you would get caught. And everyone got caught. They said, if you're a disciple, you got caught. And Yadavar will tell you sometimes you got caught. And, but it was always nice because your false ego got smashed. Now you live your whole life, never get your false ego smashed until you become a devotee. Nobody experienced that. The non-devotees, the karmis, nobody challenged your false ego. Actually, they glorify you, your false ego.
What happened to the books?
Huh?
What happened to the damaged books?
Oh, no, they were there. Probably just, they tried to hide. I don't know how they burned them or whatever, but anyway, he tried to make everything so perfect. Probably, you're not perfect, you rascal. And I forgot the point I'm making. But the point is you have the spiritual master, and your life is to please him. And you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. And I was talking about the false ego. That when everybody came to the Srila Prabhupada Association, and that's the first time they got their false ego smashed. There was a wonderful story about this false ego smashed. I know one. Well, I can tell you devotees who left the movement, so that's no problem. One devotee, Gopati, in Chicago, he was cooking. He thought he was the best cook that ever walked the earth. He would stand 4 feet from the stove and throw spices all in the air. And everybody was like, I said, wow. I think myself, what a waste of spices. But he was cooking like a big show. And he was cooking 4 burners at one time, stirring and throwing spice in. I said, man. So people think like, oh, He's the god of cooking. So anyway, when Prophet came to Chicago. He had, I was what, 12 or 13 feast, you know. Prophet put it in front of Prophet looked at it and he reached over there and got some of those uncooked strawberries. Prophet said, distribute the rest. And I go for the deflated like. He just smashed the falsetto down to nothing because he cooked for hours and to make it big. It was not the bhakti, devotion was just because we were proud. So probably cutting. Now he said, distribute the rest of it. He only ate a strawberry. He didn't even taste it. That was Srila Prabhupada. His job was to remove your false ego. And any means necessary. He removed your false ego. And if you did something to show you were proud, he would cut you down. Even small things, he would just cut you down. And when you got through, you were a different person. You know, first, it hit you really hard when the false ego was smashed. But after a while, you realize, only problem can smash me like that and I'd accept it. Everybody had to accept it if they love Prabhupada. Because he smashed it to nothing. There will be nothing left. You have to be surrendered. Anyway, I just want to roll it over. I want to hear Yadavara speak. So I'll stop so-called my pastime.
There's some questions.
Huh?
Maybe there's some questions.
Anybody have a question? On pastimes. You have a question about their pastime? You have a question?
You want to have a question?
Well, just they want to know how you first met Srila Prabhupada. Your first meeting with Srila Prabhupada.
And your name is?
They asked me to help make a garden for Prabhupada in Los Angeles, a garden. And that was my first real service. So when Prabhupada came, I was standing, it's funny, I was standing in the temple room and Prabhupada was came in. Because I saw him at the airport, but when he came into the temple in the morning, and he came around and he saw the deities, and he came on going back to the asana time, and he passed right by me, and he stopped, and he looked at me, and I was like mortified. So I was staring upon him, probably staring at me. I felt like I did something because probably was staring at me. So, and then after a while, then he turned around and walked away.
Microphone.
I didn't say they didn't say nothing. He didn't say anything. He just, oh, sorry. He didn't say anything, but he was staring at me, and when all the voters kept saying, oh, "Who are you? What's your name? Why is everybody staring at you?" I said, "I don't know. I didn't do nothing." So that was my first contact that Prabhupada, that he was staring at me as if I don't know what, don't ask me what transpired, I don't know. Whatever transpired, I don't know. I just probably was staring at me and I was like, what can you do? So that was my first contact. And it wasn't like everybody else who were intimate, they were asking questions, what you gonna do about this and what you do? No, I was sitting always around Prabhupada and I was just watching. One time he was on the outside, and it was a guitar class and probably playing. And all of a sudden, Prabhupada became golden. His body turning golden. There was a hue around his body, his head. I thought, okay, I'm spacing out here, but I'm watching this. I thought nobody else saw me, was watching what I'm seeing. So I thought I'm really spacing out here, boy. That probably going to become gold. So I kept my mouth shut, but I kept staring at it. And then when the kirtan was over, the devotee were talking. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you didn't see Prabhupada? I said, oh, I thought it was just me. No. Everybody had devotee saw Prabhupada. Prabhupada turned golden. Now these those things that's not in the books. But I was right there. And it was a mystical experience. I could never how could Prabhupada do that? But anyway, he turned golden. He was showing something mystical. And I couldn't, I'm an ordinary person, but I'm seeing this. So I thought it was very wonderful that we have some mercy, because those things in the early days is LA, those things happen, right? Those type of special things. Later on, you never saw them like that, but in the early, those were very special things to remember. And that always endeared us to Prabhupada. You became endeared with this wonderful personality that Krishna has bring to our midst. And I was very happy to have the experience to see those things. I mean, there's many other things, but I'm just saying, you can't, the pastimes of Prabhupada come out in a mood. It's not just like in a chronological in the mind. Just, when someone says that, I remember that, I remember that, but that's how it comes out, I was sitting there day after day and watching, and I used to stand behind Prabhupada on the piazza. Remember the old, there used to be the fate. That temple was very small. So I used to stand over there when Prabhupada I would lean over, Prabhupada's head, just to smell his aroma. I thought to me, that was special. And I don't know how offensive it was, but I just know that I get real close and I took a deep breath of the aroma of Prabhupada's transcendental smell. Those were things that used to turn me on to no end. But those were special days and special times. Everybody got special things like that.
How did you come to Krishna consciousness?
Can't hear you.
How did you come to Krishna consciousness? Who was the first devotee you met?
I was walking down the street in 1969, and
Where?
I was
Where?
in Houston, Texas. I was inebriated at that time. I was a commie. It was 1969, the 60s are, and I turned the corner, and the devotees, and it blew my mind completely. And I thought they were spacemen, because everybody in the 60s had long hair, and these guys had no hair. And I thought they were spacemen. I thought they come down from the earth. So I wanted the guy. In fact, I was so spaced out when I was a guy, I started punching him in the face. I said, "Hey, are you real? What? Who are you? What? I kept punching the phone. He He didn't say nothing. He kept his eyes closed, and it sounded like, you know, I didn't know what Hare Krishna mantra was. It just sounded like blah 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 blah. I said, hey, yo, you know. So I kept punching the face. So I realized that he wasn't going to say nothing to me. So I kind of backed out. I said, look at this guy. This is weird, man. Look at these people are weird. So let's go. I say, something's happening. Look at this, you know. So I saw the devotees, and then so I hopped in my car. We're traveling. So I went to the West Coast. Went to the West Coast, down walking the street in Los Angeles. And I saw the devotees again. I said, on the same place, I said, I gotta find out what's happening here. So I went over to the devotees. It was it's January of 1970. So I went over to the guy and I said, listen, what's happening here? What are you people doing? Okay, so that's beginning the conversation with the devotees. And they explained some things. They said, oh, yoga. Well, I can deal with that. Yoga. So that's the beginning, from 1969 up to 1972 when I actually surrendered. But I used to work in 1971. I was working in the Spiritual Sky Warehouse as a, what do you call that thing? Tow car or something. Pickup. Huh?
Forklift.
Yeah, forklift. And I would, load them in the trucks, and you take them. But what had happened was I had read the Bhagavad Gita. Took me 24 hours. I was so fired up. I read the Bhagavad Gita from 8 o'clock in the evening till 8 o'clock in the morning. I stayed up all night and read the whole Bhagavad Gita. So I really got fired up. And I started preaching to people who, who were people who were just commies, who were just driving, trucks. So I started talking, and they go back. What happened to the guy? Oh, he's back there. He's been the last 2 hours talking to preach. Oh, this guy likes to preach. We got to get him out here and get him to the temple. So when I first got to the temple, I never went to the temple. I just worked in Spiritual Sky Warehouse. That was my service. I never knew it was a temple. And they said, you ever been to the temple? You ever had prashad? I said, what is prashad? So when they gave me some prashad, some eggplant sabji, I'd never seen eggplant sabji. I wouldn't eat it. I said, what is that? Oh, that's prashad. I'm fasting. I don't want that. Oh no, it's really good. Oh, you eat it then. No, you gotta taste it. And then that corn, it was like, it was a Rameshwar, but he called me Robert Grant. Look at that Grant. I called him Grant, but at the time I didn't know it was Rameshwar. And they kind of ganged on me and said, you gotta taste it. I said, I don't want to taste it. They said, we gotta taste it. So there were 2 or 3 guys. You can grab a spoon and say, you just gotta taste it. I started getting freaking out. I said, what, you trying to poison me? What's going on here? I don't eat this. You gotta eat this. Just taste it. Just taste it. Why I don't taste it? Taste it. Oh, that's it.
Actually had a spoon?
Yeah, they got a spoon on it. So I said, yeah, that tastes pretty good. Then after a while, next few minutes, put a plate of eggplant. So I whipped it down, inhaled it actually, because I had first time I had prashad. So it tastes pretty good. That's how it might develop, Those are some really past times.
How did you end up working in Spiritual Sky before you were a devotee?
I don't know. I was walking. I was looking. What happened? Somehow I can't remember this. I had a stroke. I can't remember all this. But I just remember just going to this, knocking it. Man, I can't remember incense. Buy some incense or whatever. Because I started this in when they talked about Bhakti Yoga when I was on the street. I said, yogi, I went into a Hatha Yoga studio, practicing Hatha Yoga. And that's how beginning. And so I started practicing Hatha Yoga. And one of those mantras that were practiced was the Hare Krishna mantra. The guy said, so when I chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, I asked the guy, why is it this mantra here seems got so much, a lot of energy than the other ones? He said,
What?
because that's, I don't know. Well, he said, I don't know.
Energy.
Energy, a lot of energy.
Energy, yeah. He said, I don't know. He said, but there's a whole bunch of people that chant just only that mantra. I said, really? So maybe I'll go over and check it out. That's how I went to Spiritual Sky. I didn't go to Temple, I went to Spiritual Sky. And that's the beginning. So that was a detail, and one of thousands of details, but that's how it beginning. So working. I was working for Krishna, but I didn't know it. Right? I know you had a more wonderful story in mind, but this is my humbly beginnings.
Who is teaching the Hatha Yoga?
What?
Who is teaching the Hatha Yoga?
Practicing yoga?
Who is teaching the Hatha Yoga and giving you the mantras?
Some Swami Vishnudevananda.
Who?
Vishnudevananda.
Vishnu?
Some impersonal yogi. I don't know what he did.
But they still gave you the Hare Krishna mantra.
Yeah, he had a whole bunch of mantras, but the Hare Krishna mantra turned me on, like, I really like that. So when that got me going, I said, hey, I want to know about that mantra because I feel like dancing when they were chanting out. He said, yeah, well, I don't know anything about that. But there's a whole bunch of people just chant that on that mantra. I said, really? So I go check it out. And that's how I went to the Spiritual Sky Warehouse.
You were just looking for a job.
No, I went because of my Hatha Yoga. Guy told me to go, I want to. When I walk in the door, now this is funny. When I walk into the door, and for Rameshwar, I remember it's funny. He walked around. He said, yes. What do you need? He said, well, yeah. And before I could say anything, this guy said, this guy's here for the job. He said, you were looking for a job? I said, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, he's here for the job. I said, what job? That's overwhelmed me. I said, I could probably use a job, but next thing I know, I was working for a little. Oh, man. And then I never saw the devotee before. But this is really a unique thing. When I went to the airport and went to the office, Rameshwar was talking, came in, and a whole bunch of devotees came in. I didn't know they were devotees, but they hit the ground like boom. And I had never seen obeisance before. So when they went down the ground, they looked down. So I started looking down and said, what the heck are they looking for? I was looking around trying to see what they were looking for. I said, I couldn't even hear what they're saying, but I was looking down on the ground. I said, what are they looking for? And I said, what happened? What are you looking for? And they just ignored me. They started, a process, what do you call that? Hugging, So that was the first experience that someone offering obeisance, because I never saw obeisance before. You come to the material world, you never heard the word obeisance, and I've never seen obeisance. So that blew my mind. I was shocked. There's a whole lot of things really. When I first in the temple, now this is the second thing that really blew me. When I went to the temple, I turned in the street and there was Watsika, and I was mortified again, because I found the place where those bald-headed people were coming from. When I turned that around, I said, oh my God, this is where they're coming from. These are people, you know, I freaked out. I sat in the car for an hour to watch it. It blew my mind because I've been watching, I couldn't never, that bald-headed people were just absorbing my mind. And then I found the source of where they were coming from. Oh man, so I sat in that car, mortified for an hour, watching these people. I was watching for something to happen, you know. I couldn't get out of my car. I was terrified, you know. Because if you ever come into a situation where all the devotees, 50 to 100 people with bald heads and flowing robes, that was just too much for me. Because I never had the experience before. I never had the experience. So that really blew my mind. That was a change in my life. These things were revolutionaries for my life, spiritual life. You know, right now, you can see a devotee, even karma's got seekers now. When you have a seeker in the 60s or in the early 70s, you were the weirdest person on the planet, right? So those days were very unique as compared to us, you know. But now it's wonderful. Now it's wonderful. Like everywhere, everyone you see the devotees, very happy. But when they saw the devotees back in the other day, they wanted to kill us. We thought it was a threat to America. Yeah, that's another pastime we had to fight. That went to the stage from the 1970s, 71 to the 70, about the 75, right? From the 70 to 75, those were the fighting days. Proper told to get guns if necessary. So you know, packed at 45, you got 30, yeah, about 30 to 45. We had to defend Hare Krishna movement. Yeah, we went to a Hare, we're going to the street, oh, Hare now, okay, let's go. Hey. You turn a corner, and there's 4 or 5 guys with bats and sticks standing right in front of you. Oh, here we go. Anyway, I won't freak you out on that whole thing, right? But there were times, there are things about the movement that you don't know about. There was Knuckle City time. We had to fight for Prabhupada. You didn't have those times. You just enjoying it now. But in those days, you had to establish Hare Krishna movement, and by any means necessary. One day we'll talk about those things, but right now we're just talking about Prabhupada. You know,
I'm just enjoying your thoughts.
You know, I talk all night. I want people start throwing rocks at me. I'm just, it was nice those days in Prabhupada.
If you sit up there in that chair, you can use the microphone.
Well, yeah, you coming to I want to just lord it over to the. I'm good at lording over, you know that. In fact, here, take this shoe. No, you're right by the mic. I know you got some great pastimes for Prabhupada.
Everybody's heard them.
Yeah.
You can change the angle of the mic for yourself.
You have to hold it mic when you speak a little soft.
But I would like to make a request of Urjaswat Prabhu
What?
that you write out in detail your remembrances of Prabhupada and your pastimes of coming to Krishna consciousness. Does everybody support that? Yeah.
I'm not good at that kind of stuff.
Well, you did a pretty good job just sitting here speaking.
I
So
just talk a lot.
we can get
What you
this,
can do is you can find somebody who'll take dictation, or you can talk into a dictaphone,
yeah,
like into a dictaphone kind of.
you can just talk. like you just did. And, you know, somebody can transcribe it.
It took me 12 years to get Aditya Mataji to speak. And then I reminded her, listen, you're a secretary, just take notes. And then 2 days later, she said, wow, I have 163 points.
Yes, because Prabhupada's pastimes were unlimited.
Yeah.
So there were some things that was on, they're on books, but it's not. A lot of it's in the minds of a lot of devotees, right?
That's why we need you to write it down.
Huh?
That's why we need you to write it down.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, just like you said, there's already a lot of books of pastimes, probably, right?
Yeah, but we need more.
We need that appreciation of those things that we never got to experience, so that we always remember to keep our faces looking at Prabhupada.
Actually, all these details are fascinating to me. And we know that Krishna leads us to the spiritual master. He knows our heart. It seems like you were very, very inquisitive. You're very inquisitive right from the beginning. Who are these guys?
Yeah, because I don't know about in America in the 60s, very turbulent times. So the 60s were heavy, and we needed relief. We need some relief, and Prabhupada came right there and relieved us.
How did you avoid the draft?
I was going to get drafted, but what happened? At the time, I had a cold, right? And I had a cold at that time. So they checked my history, and I found out when I was a young boy, I had asthma. So, so the guy went up to the draft board and said, I see, I see that you had asthma. I say, yeah, I'm suffering right now. Really, that's what I did. I said, yeah, I'm having right now. I'm having asthma. He said, oh, okay, we can't sing if you ask my song. Oh, gee, I'm looking forward to the asthma. But anyway, and then when I got out, the guy said, he stamped said, put 4F. He's not qualified because he's asthma. And he looked the guy at me and said, hey, good luck. And he said, all right, we say,
You're a lucky guy.
he said, good luck. I can't remember his.
Probably said you're a lucky guy.
Something very, I can't remember the word, but it was making sure that you got over. You got over to the people because somehow it was Krishna because I didn't want to go kill nobody anyhow. But that's how it worked out. Krishna was watching us all the time, you know.
You know, we know there are no accidents. All
Yeah.
these things are arranged. And in my avoiding the draft, I can tell a story. That I was in the Peace Corps in Malaysia for 3 years, and I got involved in photography. So I took a lot of pictures in Malaysia when I was there, and then came back to the States, and they wanted to draft me. So I didn't know about devotees at the time. This is my first meeting with Prabhupada's potency, not Prabhupada, but his potency in the form of his devotees in the Harinam party. So I went downtown, they wanted to draft me, I went downtown to LA, but before I did that, to the induction center, I got a note from the Peace Corps psychiatrist. We had a psychiatrist who trained us for different traumatic things that may happen in overseas, especially, they call it culture shock, living in a different culture for extended periods of time. And it can be intense, living in a small Malaysian village,
Yeah.
trying to speak the language. Nobody speaks English. I wasn't exactly in that kind of situation, but sometimes, similar. So I came back and I had that note saying I was mentally unfit for combat. And actually my brother was in the Navy. He was a jet fighter pilot. He flew Phantom jets. And he was in Vietnam at the time. He visited me in Malaysia. And anyway, I could see the effects of war. Terrible. Unjust war. So I had that note with me, and so I handed that to the person who received all the, persons coming into the center. And they're gonna, if they take you, they take you right then. That's it. So he looked at the note and he said, "Oh, you've been in the Peace Corps." He said, "You can go home." He was sympathetic. So I opened the door, and the first thing I heard was Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Across the street was the Harinam party. It must have been Vishnu Jan Maharaj. Because it must have been Vishnu Jan Maharaj and his party, downtown LA, 1968. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because he's in the streets all the time.
Those are very prophetic words. You can go home. So I just heard it, and I felt something, happen inside the heart, you can say. I heard it, and there's a description of the mantra entering the ear holes and entering the heart. I could feel some subtle thing going on like that. And I walked away for 1.5 years. And I got involved in photography in Rochester Institute of Technology, upstate New York. I had taken my pictures that I took in Malaysia, and there was a teacher from Rochester Institute of Technology in our Peace Corps group, so we had an in there. So I got involved in the master's degree in photography at RIT, even though I had no undergraduate experience in photography. They liked my pictures, and I had a friend. So that's where I met Jean. We were at a hanging together, a picture hanging, and that later became Vishaka Devi. And then in the summer, after 1 year of studies, in the summer of 1970, I took my pictures to a photo, what do they call it? A photo house. And editors and people that want pictures, they come in and look at the pictures, and if they like them, they'll hire you for an assignment. So I got a call one day. We were living with Jean's parents in Long Island, and it was the editor of Asia Magazine. He was an Indian, and he had seen the devotees, and he was very curious what was going on. I also, when I first saw the devotees, just thought they were just so strange. Really strange. Because in America, we never, ever saw that kind of thing, Not only strange, but looking, but, blissful. Totally blissful. You just didn't see that on the streets of, major American cities. Who was happy? No one was happy. So it was an incredible phenomenon to witness. So I got this call, and he wanted a story on the Hare Krishna group in New York. At that time, they were living at 62 2nd Avenue, the Second Temple. And so I took the assignment, and I got a subway downtown New York, Manhattan, and I surfaced at 42nd Street and immediately heard the kirtan. And I approached Rishi Kumar and told him about what I like to do, and he invited me back to the temple. And Vishaka came. She was the writer for the article. And when I first went in the temple, actually when Rishi Kumar took me back, he took me into an art ceremony. And I stood in front of Lord Jagannath and Subhadra and Baladev during the arti. And I can say I wasn't looking for religion. I was just doing an assignment. But you're talking about mystical experiences. I had this experience in front of Lord Jagannath that I really, nailed me in terms of, becoming a devotee. And I had a vision of unlocked doors opening in my mind, you know, one after another, going back and back and back, you know, into eternity. And I had the realization that it's actually my phone. Sorry. I had the realization that this was my eternal position to worship the Lord. And after that, it was. Can you say who it is? Just turn it on. So, went back to school, did those assignments, that was published. Then another magazine editor saw that article in Asia Magazine. He liked it. He wanted a story on the devotees in Los Angeles. My second professional assignment. And my last. So I did that article, flew to Los Angeles. They had just gotten the Watsika Avenue Temple. And I remember walking into a shaving up, you know, someone's getting, Ruchi was getting shaved up. Remember Ruchi?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But the problem is the blade was very dull. It was not nice. I took some pictures but didn't use them. So I did that article, came back to school, and I had to decide on a thesis, what to do my photographic thesis on. So I was very attracted to Krishna consciousness right from the beginning. The prasadam, the smells, the mood of the devotees, the literature, everything. I was attracted. Actually, Jean was just the opposite. She was raised an atheist. So that was causing some, you know, probably long-term difficulties in our relationship, because I was determined to, you know, I like Krishna consciousness very much, and I was thinking if she doesn't come around, I probably won't, you know, continue the relationship. So I decided to do my thesis on a comparison between Zen Buddhism and Krishna consciousness. So I went to the Zen Center in Buffalo, New York. I knocked on the door, and then someone answered, but they said, they went like this. It was a day of silence. And it was once a year they have a day of silence, so nobody could speak to me. So I just dropped that idea. And I figured, let me just go to India, meet Prabhupada, and do my thesis only on Krishna consciousness, the origins of Krishna consciousness in India. I had some vague idea of something like this. So in December 1970, I got an address from Rishi Kumar, and I flew to India. He was the president at the time, actually.
Oh, where?
He was the president of New York, Rishi Kumar. And I flew into Bombay, and I had an address, and I knocked on the doors. Marie Rai, Kailash Seksaria, I still remember his name. And he said, I'm sorry, the devotees in Prabhupada have just left, they've gone to Surat. So Surat I thought was a small village or something, I didn't know what it was. He put me on the train that evening, actually around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I arrived around 9. I had no address, and it was a large town. Surat's, you know, a few 100,000 people. So I was thinking how, you know, what to do, where to go. So the rickshaw wallahs approached me, and I said, American Hare Krishna. And they said, get in. Everyone knew the devotees. They were famous immediately. So Prabhupada's formula for you know, coming to the West, making devotees and bringing them back to India was fabulously successful. And the reception that we got everywhere was just amazing. One mayor of the town, he said, even if Indira Gandhi had come, she would not have received the reception that Srila Prabhupada and his disciples had received. It was just incredible. So as a photographer, going from the streets of New York to Surat was just an amazing experience. in New York, they were frowned upon, and people didn't know what was happening, and as you described, sometimes there were conflicts, fights even. But in India, it was just, they were received like demigods. So when I knocked on the door in Surat, the person who answered the door was Rishi Kumar. I was stunned. The devotees moved very quickly in those days. Prabhupada said, come to India, you were on the plane the next day. And so he answered the door immediately, took me to Prabhupada. I showed Prabhupada the 2 articles we had done. And he went through page by page. And in the other magazine, it was kind of a hippie type magazine. There was actually some nudity in it, unfortunately.
So what? Oh.
Nudity. So Prabhupada just went through everything. Look, just very detached. And then he came to the article on Krishna consciousness, and he said, yes, even if we find gold in a dirty place, we take it. So he appreciated the article. And then he looked at me and he said, are you going to become a devotee? Because I asked Prabhupada if we could, travel and be with the party and take pictures. And so I couldn't imagine joining, although I was attracted. So I said, I don't think so, to Prabhupada. And then he said, he made a startling comment. He said, then you cannot stay.
Wow.
What to do? I just arrived, 10,000 miles. So I didn't say anything else, and Srila Prabhupada didn't ask me to leave, and we stayed 2 months and traveled with the party. So that instruction was statement actually applies to all of us, if we think about it. We can, if we don't become devotees, we can't stay in the association of devotees. And even if we physically stay in the association, we're not going to benefit that much unless we ourselves become devotees. So sometimes Srila Prabhupada would speak for the short term and sometimes for the long term. In this case, it was the short term, fortunately. I mean the long term. So he allowed us to stay, myself, and then in March 1970, Vishaka Devi came, Jean, and she was not at all attracted still, but she was, I invited her to come, And so she flew in for at the time of the Cross Maidan Pandal, which was the big Pandal program in Bombay. Now, we were only in India. Prabhupada, in his first party that he came back with, this was 1970, August, Prabhupada brought his devotees to India. August, September. They arrived in different batches. Total about 30 devotees. So I met all of them in December 1970 in Surat. But in a matter of a few months, Srila Prabhupada, basically conquered India. They would travel all by train to many, many different towns, and each stop, they would jump off the train and have Harinam right on the platform. And hundreds of Indians would just immediately, gather around. They'd be fascinated, just totally fascinated. And if you think about the history of India, the Muslim suppression for so many, out and right destruction of the Vedic culture, attempted destruction. And then the British come along in a more subtle way and try to destroy their culture. And then a few decades later, the Vaishnavas arrive. You can imagine the effect. It was just tremendously powerful. So in a few short months, we were putting on these huge programs in major cities all over India. Calcutta, Mumbai, Madras, Delhi. So here was the one in Cross Maidan Festival in Mumbai. We all know that was the festival that Srila Prabhupada called one Westerner from the very back of the audience to come sit with him on stage. And that was Radhanath Swami. He had come out of the Himalayas to meet Prabhupada. He met Prabhupada, no, that was the first time, actually. He came out of the Himalayas to renew his visa. And he saw the signs, for the Hare Krishna festival. Shyam Sundar.
He was a traveler, and I think he had dreadlocks.
He had dreadlocks. He was a yogi in the Himalayas.
He was an educated bum on the road, like many people at that time.
Yeah, but he was very special. He was out to find. He was searching for God very directly. And I'm sure many have read his book. How many have read the book? Journey Home? Quite a few. It's a fascinating book. Fascinating. And it's glorious. It doesn't talk much about Prabhupada until the end. But that's the culmination of his search, that he found Prabhupada. He found the devotees. He found the philosophy. So that's amazing. So he was there, and at the time, Jean wanted to do a photo essay on an Indian village. She wasn't into Krishna consciousness, just Indian village, that's enough. So we asked Prabhupada where to go, and he said, wherever you go, you'll get your camera stolen and they will cheat you. Then he said, he paused for a moment, then he said, you should go to Vrindavan. So that's where we did come to Vrindavan, but before we did that, we went to Nepal. And we had the original blue-covered Bhagavad Gita by Macmillan. And that's when Jean started reading Bhagavad Gita, and she started, there was some spark of interest about who she was, the soul. And we spent, about 6 days in an abandoned cabin in a beautiful valley overlooking the Himalayas. So that was very magical. We came back down and spent a month in Vrindavan. There was one center at Brahmakund. There was just a rented room. And I remember, I think Gargamuni was here, and Brahmananda, Giriraj, Yamuna came, Gurudas. So devotees would come and go and stay in that little center. So we stayed a month in Vrindavan, and that's where Vishaka became Krishna conscious. Just, fascinated with the mood and everyone chanting Jai Radhe, Jai Krishna. So Prabhupada knew where to direct everyone. So anyway, should we continue? Long story.
Very well.
Don't stop now.
Any comments?
What about that, Julie?
Yes.
What were the devotees doing in Vrindavan? The temple wasn't built at that time.
No, there was no temple, there was no land. That was 1971. And they were just had a room, and coming to Vrindavan for purification, and staying in the Holy Dham. And so Prabhupada had, long-range plans, of course. I'm not sure when the land was purchased. Does anybody know the year? I think 72.
I don't know exactly what it was built in by 74.
Well, the opening was 75, April 75. So anyway, we stayed here a month, and then Gurudas Prabhu, he asked us to come to Calcutta to produce a Vyasa Puja book. It was the summer of 1971, and it was very hot. I was anxious to do some service. Vishaka wanted to stay in Vrindavan because we saw the pilgrims coming for Janmashtami. Everyone was coming to Vrindavan. So I kind of dragged her out of Vrindavan to Calcutta. When we arrived in Calcutta, it was intense because all the Bangladesh refugees were piling into Calcutta because there was big turmoil in Bangladesh with the creation of that state at that time. Separation from Pakistan. When we arrived when the train pulled into the station, we saw a dead body on the tracks and guards with guns over it. So anyway, intense, yeah.
Welcome to Hoover Station.
So we lived in 3C Albert Road, which is the same temple as we have now. Very, very intense. We were unmarried, and that caused a lot of upset amongst the devotees. Very new, very neophyte, and pretty much everyone was neophyte, except for a few. you know, at the most, devotees had been devotees for five years, maybe. And I was one of the oldest devotees in India. I was 26. Most of the devotees were 18, 19, 20, 21. Anyone over 21 was considered an elder. So you can imagine the, you know, the difficulties and the intense times in those early days. Especially in Calcutta Temple, the women had to walk through the men's bathroom to get to their rooms.
It was the only bathroom.
You remember that, right?
Yeah,
It was
because
the only
the women had to get up early, like an hour earlier, so that they could go into the bathroom and be out of
That's
there
right.
before the
You're
men
right.
got up.
That was in Calcutta.
Yeah, Calcutta.
Yeah, that was,
All
And
right.
I remember
yeah.
Palika was doing the cooking and she was trying to get a shower. This is like in the middle of the day. And she forgot to lock the door and a shooting onion came in, closed the door in shock.
Anyway, we were brand new. Everybody was just waiting for Prabhupada to come to solve all the problems. He came in October 1971. When Prabhupada came, it was like, you know, the sun rising, dissipating the darkness. And you know, at one point Prabhupada called for an istagosti to discuss all the difficulties and the problems. So we all filed into Prabhupada's room, and just Prabhupada's effulgence and presence, just for me, just, you know, dissipated all the problems were gone. So we kind of all sat there looking at Prabhupada, not saying it very much, and some things were discussed. And then finally one Mataji, she said, actually, Prabhupada, in Krishna consciousness there are no problems. Prabhupada said, yes, you have understood correctly. In Krishna consciousness there are no problems.
Do you know who it was?
I forget. So we went, our main service in those early days was in Juhu. Giriraj Das Brahmachari was the president. Mahamsa Prabhu was the treasurer, I was the secretary, and Sarabi Prabhu was the architect. And there were also intense difficulties there because we were trying to procure the land. Actually, the first temple we lived in was on Warden Road, yes. Akash Ganga. And it was a beautiful temple, apartment overlooking the Arabian Sea. And a perfect place for making life members. Very, very clean, very nice. Everybody was very happy. But then one morning, one gentleman came to see Prabhupada. And he walked in and he was shaking and he was sweating. He was very nervous. He was kind of stuttering. And he offered Prabhupada his land at Juhu Beach. That was Mr. N. And so the next morning, Prabhupada was very interested. He got a taxi. So Prabhupada, Shyamsundar, Tamakrishna, and myself went to see the land. And when Prabhupada saw it, he immediately wanted it. He immediately started making plans. Yes.
Actually, when Prabhupada was visiting Sumati Morarji, she just lived, you know, like
She lived very close
down the
by.
street.
Prabhupada knew that area.
And when he would pass this property, and he was thinking, what a nice place this would be to have a temple. And so that it was the whole thing is just, it came around to that.
So Prabhupada immediately wanted the land, and papers were signed very quickly. Actually, the leaders at that time really didn't want to move because it was no proper place to stay. We quickly erected a very poorly built canvas roof hut, you can say. The deities were moved and lived in that hut with the devotees for some time until an outdoor temple was built. Giriraj Swami and I would go see Mr. Nair to try to work out the problems. Of course, he was the problem. And his interest was to perpetuate the problem, to extract money from the devotees. And the lawyers were also in cahoots. You the lawyers had their interest to extend the case because they got more money as lawyers. So it was a mess. Nobody could figure it out or deal with it. Prabhupada called all his best men from overseas to try to work it out, and nobody could do anything. And then that very foolish attempt to demolish the temple was Mr. Nair's plan, just a very stupid mistake, because it turned the public sentiment totally against him. You know, there were accusations that we were CIA, that we were drug smuggling. You know, when the deities arrived at Warden Road, you may have remembered this, but the proprietor of the building, he would not allow the crates. They were in crates. He would not allow the crates to go up until they were open and examined for drugs. So right on the street in front of the apartment building, we opened the crates and we saw Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna in the crates, and he was satisfied. I don't think he even said he was sorry. So anyway, there was a lot of suspicion at the time, who we were, what we were about, and so anyway, there was a big campaign against that temple demolition. And then the case went on, and then Srila Prabhupada at one point took a tour of South India. And a very successful tour with his group. I stayed back in Bombay just to hold the fort down, to keep things running, although I really wanted to attend the programs in the South. So at one point, a devotee came back to relieve me, and I took a train to Calcutta to meet Srila Prabhupada. I arrived at night in a taxi outside the temple, and I looked up Prabhupada's window, and he was in the window, and he motioned for me to come up. And I paid obeisances and came quickly. And then Srila Prabhupada asked me about Bombay, how things were going, and he was talking a little bit about the problems there. In the meantime, Mr. Nair had died. This was after he had died. So Srila Prabhupada, he looked at me and he said something astounding. He said, "I prayed to Lord Nrsingadev that this man should be punished." And my mouth just... I was stunned. I didn't say anything.
In the Bhagavatam, it says, a sadhu is very happy to see a snake or a scorpion killed.
Well, one devotee commented sometime later that he didn't think that Vaishnavas cursed anyone. The Prabhupada didn't curse anyone. He prayed to his Lord that this man should be punished. And if indeed this was the case, the Lord Nrsingadev did take action, then it was to Mr. Nair's great fortune. Because we could actually see, we were reading at the time, we would read Krishna book every night, and we were reading the story of King Riga, mistakenly giving 2 cows to the same Brahmin, 1 cow to 2 Brahmins. So we read about his fate. It was, terrible. He lost his wealth, he lost his health, he took birth in very, horrible species of life. So we could see, visibly these things happening to Mr. Nair. He was losing his health, he was losing his wealth.
That. We don't know that. That's our educated speculation. He actually had scratch marks on his chest.
We don't know what, I'm sorry.
We don't know what his destination was. He had scratch marks on his chest. And his wife reported that he was calling out to Nrsingadev. So who knows?
All right, well,
Yeah.
we can guess what the destination was. Yeah, if that happens, very fortunate. Yes,
How come he was trembling when he first came?
I don't know. He just looked very suspicious to me. I'm sure Prabhupada knew. Huh?
He entered the CIA area maybe.
We had nothing to do with CIA, although it was reported that one devotee who joined was planted by the Indian government.
That was one I was initiated with, that was Vardhan.
Vardhan, I remember Vardhan.
Yeah, he was,
Was he?
yeah,
Huh?
yeah, he was,
Did he ever say?
I think later he told.
Wait, you want the microphone?
You want to say something?
You guys,
Here, no,
it's funny, Mark, when I was initiated that cross Vardhan, it was Vardhan, Mahamsa, myself, Bhagavan, Padmavati, Darsha, and Dravida, who later became Pancha Dravida. But it was funny when this article came out that they thought we were CIA, Prabhadanandan Swami and I had gone to do some life membership, and we knocked on the door, and here's a big, tall Prabhadanandan Swami with his tunda. The guy opens the door a little, and Prabhadanandan Swami looks in and says, "Is Mr. Ishani here?" And the guy's trembling, going, "No, no, no." I look in the back, and there's pictures of Lenin, Trotsky, and Marx, and there's like 4 guys at the table, and he says, "No, there's no Mr. Ishani here." And he slams the door, and then we go around, and the 4 guys run down the stairs and get in the car and drive off. And Prabhadananda said, "Where'd they go in such a hurry?" I said, "Didn't you see that they had the pictures of Lenin, Trotsky, and Marx, the communist leaders? They thought we must be the CIA hit squad come to kill them, and that's why they ran off in such a hurry."
So, lots of struggles at Hare Krishna land, but we know the glorious result. Incredible temple. And Prabhupada knew that. He could see past, present, and future. We were struggling at the time, carrying brochures for the project around with us, and in the meantime living in, very primitive conditions. Actually, Vishaka became so, not upset, but the living conditions were so poor that she moved to the rooftop. She was living like a beggar. She would put palm fronds off the wall of the roof, or off the thing around the roof, the wall. And that was her. Put plastic over palm fronds, and she would, that was her room. That was her bed and reading place. And so, during our stay there, we got an invitation to come to the West to produce our first film. Karandar Prabhu had an idea that we needed a film on the movement. So we asked Prabhupada about that, and Prabhupada agreed to take money from the BBT to finance it and to bring us both back. We had been sending films and still pictures to BTG for publication. So they were very happy to receive these pictures and published a lot of them. So we came back in April of 1973 and began the Hare Krishna People film. And that was released in 1974 in Mayapur, in Prabhupada's room in Mayapur. And as you know, Prabhupada's room in Mayapur is very, very small. But we had the GBC in there and the sannyasis and lots of other leaders. So when Vishaka came in to sit down, there was no room. So Prabhupada had the sannyasis move aside, and she sat next to him, next to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "Ladies first." So Prabhupada was always very considerate like that. Prabhupada, actually, when we showed the film, we didn't have the proper transformer. So everything ran slow. We had the right voltage, but not the proper, amps? Anyway, the narrator was speaking like this.
You needed a stabilizer.
Maybe.
Yeah, not just a transformer.
Anyway, the film was shown, everybody saw it, and Prabhupada liked it very much. It was shown extensively throughout the world. Actually, many devotees became devotees because of that film. And so Prabhupada's instruction was to produce more films, distribute this widely, and from the profits make more films. And I asked Prabhupada if we could support our family from the profits. He said also you can do that. So ours was really the first business within ISKCON. We didn't really have an authority as such. We just, made our films. And after that was released, I asked Prabhupada if I could make a film on his life. And he said, what is the need? So that is very typically Srila Prabhupada, who would always minimize himself and always give credit to others. In fact, in that very early film, in the first film, Pumpkin Square Park, Prabhupada's chanting in that. There's an interview in that film, and he gives all credit to the boys. And you see the boys, they're lounging around the temple, kind of lying down, bearded. Prabhupada's giving credit to them. You know, so he would, of course, always give credit to his spiritual master. And so that was typical. So Prabhupada, my answer to that, what is the need? When Prabhupada said that, I said, people in the future will want to know who started the Hare Krishna movement. So Prabhupada allowed us to make that film, and he allowed us very intimate access to him. His translation very early in the morning. One morning we filmed that. Chanting japa in his room, putting his socks on to go for the morning walk. Of course, classes, morning walks. We just tried to film as much as we could with Prabhupada. And that was in 1975, especially in Los Angeles. We had a lot of filming. Urjasvat Prabhu appears in some of those films, leading kirtan. And we have we heard you lead kirtan? Not here.
What?
Have you? You just did. You led kirtan?
Who?
Yeah.
We today. I mean, this time.
Oh, you started with kirtan. Sorry, I missed it.
All right.
He's a great kirtaniya. So we're embarking on another film project. Actually, Venerable Well-Wisher, Prabhupada's biography, Prabhupada never saw that. He did see 4 of our films, very wonderful premieres. There was nothing like, releasing a film and having Prabhupada in the audience. Incomparable. Do you remember Spiritual Frontier premiere in Los Angeles? Yeah. Kirtananda had come out from Los Angeles, Kirtananda Swami, and he brought many devotees. The film was The Spiritual Frontier. It was a documentary on New Vrindavan at the time. So the whole temple was completely packed, and there was one shot of puris being cooked. And Prabhupada rose up out of his vyasasana and he said, I want some of those. And then after the film, Kirtananda had brought ice cream from New Vrindavan. It packed in dry ice, so everybody had ice cream. And anyway, it was just wonderful. Prabhupada saw 4 of our films. He never saw Venerable Well-Wisher. That was released 30 years ago in 1983. And now we need another film on Prabhupada's life. It's for contemporary audiences. So we're embarking, some of you may have heard of this project. We're starting a new film on Prabhupada's life, and it's meant for the public. There's so much material for devotees. There's not enough for the public, and we need material. We feel that if someone just appreciates Prabhupada slightly, they'll make great advancement. Prabhupada put great emphasis on appreciation. Not that you even have to follow, but just appreciate the work of the devotees and appreciate the philosophy. You can appreciate anything. If it's something, then the people will make great spiritual advancement. So we seek your blessings in this effort. It's a very big project. We're aiming it for the public, which is not easy. Actually, a producer from public broadcasting system in America that's a very big network channel. I was speaking to her the other day in Mumbai, and she said it's not possible for you people to make a film for the public on your own spiritual master. You're too close. So that may be true, but we actually have a lot of help from outside people and people connected to the movement, actually devotees who are professionals in the field. Many have come forward, so it's very, very encouraging. And we had a very, very large donation come to us here in Vrindavan Dham. Actually, I'll tell you, $100,000. One of them. So full steam ahead. Anything else? Questions?
Do you have any more personal stories?
You know, I have an ego smashing story.
Hand it over.
I think everybody who was with Prabhupada had.
Nobody escaped.
Nobody escaped. Prabhupada. I was on the morning walk in Denver in 1975. This was after Prabhupada's visit to Los Angeles. We did a lot of filming of him. And about a year earlier, there was a lot of devotees doing fasting to try to improve their health. And I also did a fast, and my health got worse. So on that morning walk, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was talking about, you know, these diets, and how devotees were kind of into, you know, the fad of, you know, going on diets to try to get better, try to get their health back. So he said, Prabhupada, we should actually just die eating prasad. Prabhupada said, yes, we should die eating prasad. So I had this bad experience with the diet. So I was walking in back of Srila Prabhupada, and I just said from the back, voice out of the blue, I said, yes, Prabhupada, these diets are useless. So Prabhupada stopped. He planted his cane in front of me. He turned around. He looked at me. He said, the diet is useless, or you are useless? Now think about that. That's a very profound statement. You know, the diet, we just concoct the diet and we accept the diet, and we call it useless. So anyway, I was just completely stunned.
Nobody can smash like Prabhupada.
Do you remember any other morning walks?
I know there's a lot of them. No, I mean, there's a lot of that has to come out from a certain mood that these things come out in your mind, you know.
Move your mind.
Yeah, the nicest story I could say, I was on that, staying with Prabhupada those initial 2 months. We also went to Kumbh Mela in Allahabad. And I was down, you know, wandering away from the devotees, you know, in Maya. And I was taking pictures of the bathers at the Ghat, right? All of a sudden, I was grabbed from behind, my hands, you know, grabbed and forced behind my back, my camera snatched out of my hand. It was soldiers who were confiscating my camera, and they thought I was taking pictures of the ladies bathing. So anyway, I was taking pictures, maybe that was there, but not intentionally. So anyway, they took me to a tent, their police tent, and handcuffed me to the pole in the middle. And so they were questioning me, and I said I was with Prabhupada in the Hare Krishna movement. So eventually word went out to the devotees, and Prabhupada actually sent a note to the police officer. He said, this is Mr. John, he is traveling with us, and he is a good boy, please release him. So that got me out. Prabhupada saved me.
Camera back?
Huh?
You got your camera back?
Got the camera back with no film. They confiscated the film. Another time, well, actually I had left again. I went to Benares to visit somebody I had met. And then I rejoined Prabhupada actually Prabhupada came to Benares. So he came and I joined the party again. And the house I went to visit, to meet Srila Prabhupada at, it was very strange. The owner had given the house to the devotees, and then he just left. The whole family left. We were just there alone. So anyway, Prabhupada, when I arrived, he was in the backyard, and he had a big pot of gore. He had just finished his massage. And he had, bare chest, with lungi on. And he looked very, very beautiful. And he had broken this pot of gore and was handing the pieces out to the devotees to lick. He had taken some himself. It was prasad. And he was very jolly. And he looked at me, he said, the first thing he said was, Krishna has captured you. So that was a wonderful statement to hear from Srila Prabhupada. And actually an article was done a couple of years later. I told my story to a devotee and she wrote it up into a BTG article. And the name of the article was Captured by Krishna. So that's what you can do also. Anything else?
Would you like to share something about Vrindavan when Srila Prabhupada came for Kartik 72?
Actually, I wasn't here.
Vishaka was there?
Vishaka was here.
And you have nothing to share on this Kartik with Prabhupada?
Well, I remember Prabhupada warning us about offenses, committing offenses in the Dham. He was very concerned that we behave ourselves. And he gave wonderful lectures. I remember the most stunning image I have of Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. We were at an engagement. This was 1971. And Prabhupada was looking at, it was a temple, and it was an open-air courtyard. Prabhupada was singing Jai Radha Madhava, and he was looking up through the grating into the sky. And he was just looking, singing Jai Radha Madhava. It was just, it was so mystical. We don't know what Prabhupada was seeing, or, but it was incredible.
Which photos is yours?
Which photos? Sometimes we think Vishaka and I think we took the same photo. We were filming at the same time in different places. She took the one, that's Radha Damodar on the far corner. Some of you can't see that.
That's the guy.
That's in the Rupa Goswami Samadhi area, Radha Damodar. Somebody that I see. That's New Vrindavan, 1974, probably Vishaka. I took a lot of black and white pictures of Srila Prabhupada in the early days. No.
I think Barbara did.
Yes.
She did the famous one, Srila Prabhupada went Aarti to Kushalara.
Vishaka took that picture. I was taking movies at the time.
That one in the front of the temple. That's her one.
That's doing arti in front of Krishna Balaram? Yes.
That's one.
Vishaka took that. Yeah. There's a story that Tripurari Swami was standing in front of her and she couldn't get him to move. But finally she said, if you stand there, you can see Prabhupada offering arti, but if I stand there, the whole world can see. She was taking pictures. She was the official BTG photographer at the time.
Did you take the black and white picture of Srila Prabhupada in his room in Radha Damodar?
Vishaka. Yes, Mother.
In a nutshell,
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all your experiences with us. If you have to nutshell into one thing, what is the one thing that keeps you going after Prabhupada completed his pastime on this planet?
There's no pleasure like the pleasure we find in Krishna consciousness. Doesn't exist. Actually, there's one devotee who came to Srila Prabhupada in Laguna Beach. He said, Prabhupada, I'm trying to forget Krishna. He dressed like a carmaid. He was a devotee for quite a while. And Prabhupada looked at him, he said, that's not possible. And it's not. You may try, and you may be successful for some time, so-called successful. But once you've tasted it, that's it. You're finished. No other choice.
What Prabhupada said, now I have spoiled your material life.
That's right. Spoiled. We may try. We may, there may be fall downs. But just like a child learning to walk, they never give up, do they? They always get up. They always try again. So Prabhupada placed also great emphasis on trying. Just keep trying. He asked Sankirtan Prabhu, are you trying to understand the philosophy? Sankirtan Prabhu was in a darshan with all kinds of big sannyasis. Prabhupada just turned to him and asked him. He was so flabbergasted he didn't say anything, but he appreciated that Prabhupada asked, are you trying? To understand the philosophy is not an easy thing. We're talking about realization. So Prabhupada never wanted us to give up. And he always accepted everyone back, no matter what. If they had the desire to come back, Prabhupada never rejected. Right?
It was very, very vivid. I don't really think that Prabhupada's the only way. The pictures are just random. It's just like here in the next room. Those impressional things that Prabhupada did, they're right there. I mean, sometimes Prabhupada appeared in my dreams over the years. Several, 8 times, you just keep coming. And you never forget anything. All those pastimes with Prabhupada, they were very vivid in that I was just remember these things. When I saw Prabhupada, like I was telling them about that, when Prabhupada had the boys were having a discussion. Prabhupada said, you become the demon, and I become the devotee, and I will defeat you. And then he switched it up and he said, now you become the demon, I'll become the devotee. And those things were very vivid. And watch Prabhupada, when he talked, he was like, his eye like, you'll never forget those impressions. He does that, he gets, and he's telling the story. All of the facial impressions were very vivid. So you don't go away, you just stay there. I mean, when Prabhupada picked his foot, one time he picked his foot up. I told you that story, you wasn't there, but I told that story about when that Prabhupada, we talk about the missing link, when the guy said, there's a missing link, they're waiting for a connection, they're trying to find out the connection between you and Prabhupada said, missing link, Prabhupada, and he put like, they're missing this foot. That's, he's pointing that foot like that. Everybody was laughing so hard that you don't forget these things. So it's not like it's been how many years? 19. It's how many years since Prabhupada left exactly? But let's see, 36 years. 36, yeah. It was just like yesterday. So it's not like we haven't forgotten anything. It was so much that it has to be a creative mood when things pop up in your mind, but it is so much. So there's no question of he left for a long time. He was still here. Every time we offer prayer, he appears. It is amazing how he does that. It's like Prabhupada's protecting his disciples. There's no question. You have to, if you were there, and you understand. But it's no question that how we keep our going. We have never lost anything. you know. Right?
Yeah.
So vivid. On the ecology, when the devotee said, Prabhupada, can we, and should we fast on ecology, make a lot of spiritual advancement? At the time, Prabhupada was making the sandesh on the thing. He said, yes. Yes, you can fast on ecology. Or you can just simply take it to shop. So, you know, you don't forget those things. Because you watch it, you see this history go by, you know, it was history. And you don't forget anything because Prabhupada was so, I can't think of the word, but it was
Real. Prabhupada was real.
definitely real, but it's more
Messy.
real than justice with it.
President.
He brought the transcendental world. He brought Vaikuntha to this realm. You know, just the things that I experienced, those, you know, semi-mystical or whatever experiences, that was not ordinary. Not of this material world. And, you know, just coming in touch with his potency through his devotees in his temple in New York and the deity worship and the deities standing in front of Lord Jagannath. It was all transcendental. So to the degree that we follow his instructions, to that degree we will experience that transcendental potency. Actually, I was in Prabhupada's room before the temple was built in Juhu. He was staying with Mr. Acharya. Remember Acharya?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one visitor came in and he paid obeisances to Prabhupada, and he didn't get up, he just started glorifying Prabhupada on the floor, full dandavats. And he didn't stop. He said, Swamiji, you're this, you're that, you've done such wonderful things. He just went on and on. And finally Prabhupada looked at him, he said, you become like me. I was stunned. Become like Prabhupada, this man. But actually that's Prabhupada's instruction to all of us. He wanted us to become pure. So that, you know, again, we don't give up. We can continue to try.
I was thinking about when you were talking about the smashing, and I was thinking how everybody got smashed by Prabhupada, and some of it was really heavy, and some just not so heavy. There was one devotee. I wouldn't call his name but he was chanting, and he was. It's kind of like showball, you know, showing, and he thought he was doing a really great job of chanting. And then Prabhupada turned to the secretary. He said, "Who is that Rakshasa talking and singing?" And singing right there. That's how Prabhupada would just. Who is that Rakshasa singing? So you thought you were doing something, but you're being puffed up. Prabhupada would just smash you down to the end.
Curb the pride. Prabhupada would just curb the pride.
Like anything.
Sometimes really drastically. And you know, that was, if we were trying to make advancement, you know, we knew in our heart what the you know, position, how we're, you know, kind of faking it. You know, we knew when we were full of pride or full of false ego. Prabhupada would make it very clear, there's no doubt. You know, we don't want a guru who flatters us. You know, we want the chopping block. Yes.
Which footage did you capture that you're really glad that you captured and moved from your favorite?
Yeah, the question is which footage that I captured is the favorite?
You know, that you're really, really happy that you caught it.
Probably a conversation that Prabhupada had with Dr. Mize. Some of you have seen it. Those of you who have seen the Following Srila Prabhupada DVD series, you've seen that Los Angeles 1975 DVD number 9. And it's a conversation with Dr. Mize. In our DVD series, there's 3 audio tracks. Some devotees have the DVD series, they don't know there's 3 audio tracks. You can choose remembrances, you can choose music or live sound. If the film was a silent film, you'll hear Prabhupada chanting. When it has sound, you'll hear that sound. And also a lecture track of that time and place. So you can choose 3 audio tracks. So in the music and live sound, Prabhupada's in a live darshan with Dr. Mize. And Prabhupada just, explains so wonderfully how we're not the body, that we're the soul. But, there are these close-ups of Prabhupada's face explaining these things. Very, very powerful. You're right there. Often we show that as a sample of our work. And I was actually hoping to show that on a big screen here in Vrindavan. That would have been nice on maybe next year, Prabhupada's disappearance day, just to get a real intimate,
Yeah, we got
close-up experience.
Still have a big screen in the museum.
Oh,
That'd be
in the
nice.
museum?
In the museum, we show, on a projector, we show Prabhupada larger than life.
Oh.
We have got a very good projector.
Mm.
There's cinema quality.